I'm Connie Keene with Quantum Energy Infusion, where everything is energy. This is Module 3, Tap Into You. Right now, we are going to talk about the origins of tapping. Thought field therapy tapping was discovered, invented, and developed by Dr. Roger Callahan back in the 1980s. In 2019, we know tapping to be a vibrant form of energy medicine and/or energy psychology, whichever way you choose to talk about it. In 1980s, though, nobody knew about it. It had not been invented yet. And in this module, in Quantum Energy Infusion Level 1, we are going to learn thought field therapy. And the reason we're going to learn the thought field therapy version of tapping is multi-pronged. First of all, I've been doing it for 11 years, so I'm deeply steeped in its processes and traditions. My two teachers were personal students of Dr. Roger Callahan. Dr. Bruce Patton and Dr. Dario Morgan both studied with Dr. Callahan while he was alive, and Bruce sits on the Thought Field Therapy International Foundation Board. While I lived in Dallas for the full 10 years, we had monthly support group meetings of our Thought Field Therapy group, where we had anywhere from 8 to 20 or 25 people present using thought field therapy as an energetic form of medicine to manage our lives and our energy. 5 of those years, we met in my studio in my home. And lastly, Dr. Robert Bray, who is a Thought Field Therapy certified trainer, came to Dallas, and I had him come to my energy studio and teach a certification course on thought field therapy. So I have a lot of wonderful, wonderful experience and I've been doing it over 10 years. And because it is lesser known now than EFT tapping, which is and all the different types of tapping that are now available to us in 2019, I want you to understand the richness and the beauty of thought field therapy as I have experienced it in my energetic career. I do different kinds of tapping. We're just going to learn about thought field therapy here in level 1. So this is Dr. Callahan's book, Tapping the Healer Within, and I want you to hear some of this in his words. Now, Dr. Callahan is a clinical psychologist and was very discouraged by the fact that he had a 2 or 3% success rate with curing his patients. So his patients would come in with fears and phobias and traumas, and he would work with them, and they'd meet and they'd have their sessions, and he never really felt like he was getting a acceptable enough cure rate. Did they get better? Mm-hmm. Could they live more full lives? Mm-hmm. Were they cured? Nope, not but about 2 or 3%. And in his desire to enhance his practice and find ways to help his patients, he studied other modalities and other areas of science. And what he brought together, which was discovered quite by accident, which is a charming story that he talks about in his book, was the beginning of thought field therapy. So let's think back to the 1980s when really the psychological model felt that most things were hardwired in the brain, and certain behaviors, right, were, like in us, stuck in us. We could do some behavioral modification, but come on, that stuff was in the brain. So back in the 1980s, in Dr. Callahan's words, as thought field therapy took form, I drew from many disciplines. Thought field therapy, in fact, lies at the confluence of quantum physics, biology, acupuncture therapy, the Eastern understanding of the mind-body's natural energy system, and yes, clinical psychology. I had no formal training in acupuncture, but I explored it on my own. I've often said that if I had been formally trained in all of these fields, I probably would not have made the discoveries I did, since I went on this adventure alone, following the path wherever it led. Call it the power of ignorance. Well, thank goodness Dr. Callahan went on that journey, following the energy and seeing where it took him. One of the basic principles I talk about in this course, and why I've even created quantum energy infusion, is because the energy has intelligence. It is the universal intelligence. of the universe. It's the universal intelligence of the universe. I mean, it is the underlying fabric that permeates all that is. So when you're listening and you go on an energy adventure, you get guided. You really do. One of the things that fascinates me about Dr. Callahan's method is, well, and then early on also, he got trained in kinesiology, which what we call true for you testing, right? Body testing, kinesiology. So he studied that intensely to learn how that also could benefit his patients in helping them find information and helping them test their body. So what fascinates me, let's think back to the 1980s, okay? When still everything we pretty much thought was hardwired in the brain. And Dr. Callahan comes along and he says, I've been thinking about this, and I've noticed I understand about meridians and how they move through the body a little bit. And I understand about energy fields. You know, we have gravitational fields, we have magnetic fields, we have the quantum field. He studied quantum physics. We have the quantum field. What if we had a thought field? What if there was an invisible thought field that held our thoughts? Nobody was thinking that in the 80s, not in clinical psychology. And what if we could access those thoughts by intentionally tapping on a few specific places on our body? What if we could access those and then release them? I can tell you nobody was thinking that way in the 80s, in the psychology world, in the clinical psychology world. So here he comes. That sounds crazy, doesn't it? And yet look at where we are in 2019 with all of these branches of tapping that are now available to us. I mean, a whole energy psychology is really, now a whole branch of its own. It's so exciting. And there's been papers written and studies done proving the effectiveness of tapping. And here was this man all alone on this journey in the 80s trying to figure out what it was. I have a deep amount of respect for Dr. Callahan. Okay, so now let's talk about this using his words again. Because this is one of the most exciting paragraphs. It's a big one. This is one of the most exciting paragraphs I've ever read about energy medicine. And I've got to tell you, I've been reading about it a long time. I've been at this intentionally for 26 years. So what is the root of the problem? The root of the problem, when it comes to fears, phobias, traumas, he's talking about how can I help my patients and what is the root of the problem? So with the concept of the thought field in mind, what is the root cause of emotional distress? It's what I call a perturbation in the thought field. As you may know, in physics and astronomy, the term perturbation indicates a disturbance in or a difference from the norm, and it implies a random quality. But in thought field therapy, the perturbation is hardly random. It is a unique entity that contains active information, another quantum physics concept, of a highly specific sort. It is a subtle but clearly isolate aspect of the thought field that is responsible for triggering negative emotions. What? He's telling us that trigger is in the thought field. It's not in our brain. The psychological upset is due not to a trauma or the loss of a love, for example. These experiences give rise to the perturbation. But it is the perturbation itself that is responsible for generating, guiding, and controlling all of the fundamental changes within the body, influencing the chemicals, hormones, neural pathways, and cognitive and brain activity that result in the experience of a specific negative emotion, such as fear, anger, or depression. When you're grieving, or you compulsively overeat, or when you're anxious, there's a perturbation in your thought field. This perturbation holds the information that governs these and all negative or disturbing emotions. Think about that. There's a perturbation right here. There's a perturbation in your energy field. And that perturbation, when that trauma comes in, all of a sudden, that perturbation now is actively coded with all of the information of that trauma. when the car accident happened, when you realized you broke your back, when you were scared that your mom and dad were dead, when all of a sudden you were stuck in a snow pile in a blizzard in the middle of nowhere in Illinois with a 2-mile backup and the ambulances couldn't even get to you. That all of that coded information is right there. You're going to miss your plane. Is your dad okay? Is your mom okay? The car's totaled. Can I even move? The pain is so intense, I'm not sure I can even breathe. All of that coded information is in that perturbation. When I was in that car accident, it's all right there. And then when I would have a thought about that, this would all activate. I would get the rush of hormones. I would get the neurological. I would get the fear. I would get the trauma. I would get the sharp pain. All of that was encoded in this entity in my thought field. Well, the beautiful thing, so what do we do about that? Well, to finish up in Dr. Callahan's words, for years, although I knew of the existence of this entity in the thought field that created emotional disturbances, I did not know what to call it. I sought out a name that would fit the existing knowledge, but would not need to be changed if new information became available. The word perturbation came to me, and I opened up a dictionary to see what it said. One of the dictionary definitions particularly excited me. It defined perturbation as, quote, a cause of mental disquietude, unquote. Let that sink in. A cause of mental disquietude. When I read that, I knew I'd found the perfect word to describe this entity in the thought field. I simply amended the definition slightly to the cause of mental disquietude. Okay, this next part is really powerful to me as an energy medicine practitioner. The perturbation is analogous to the concept of the cell in biology and the atom in chemistry. It is the fundamental unit of causation of all disturbing emotions. Keep in mind that if it were the event itself that caused the emotional turmoil, the loss of a loved one, for example, you couldn't do much to quiet the storm. After all, there is no way to change that past event. Fortunately, perturbations can be collapsed and eliminated thanks to thought field therapy. When that perturbation is collapsed and eliminated, it's not triggered anymore. Did I still have the car accident? Yep. Did I still break my back? Yep. Did I still rearrange my innards? Yep. Did I have surgery? Yep. But do I feel that cascade of emotions? I have tapped on that so much, and that perturbation has been released and eliminated. So the facts are, I was in a car accident in a blizzard. I broke my back, rearranged my intestines, got to have surgery, got to heal all of that. And I can talk about it as a fact. It's no longer a cascade of chemicals, neurological experiences, hormonal expression, biological expression. I no longer have this cascade of fear and horror and trauma that were associated with that car accident. I was in a car accident, I broke my back. Because that perturbation, that entity of coded active information was released. It still happened. I still had the memory with no emotional charge. Now that is powerful stuff. So let's think about this. In Module 2, we talked about trapped emotions. Dr. Bradley Nelson has brilliantly talked about trapped emotions. I'm all on board with that. Well, how can I be on board with that and on board with perturbations? Well, does perturbation sound like a trapped emotion? Well, it sure is. So let's think about this energy field, all right? This thought field, this invisible thought field. It's like a structure for us, that a structure and a support that holds our thoughts, our experiences. Well, if it's like the quantum field, right, it permeates everything. It's the very fabric of existence. So maybe this emotional thought field is part of the fabric of our existence. In Module 1, you had a treatment on your aura. Could you imagine that your thought field would extend through your aura and maybe one of these perturbations could be in your aura? Maybe. It's all energy, right? We have chakras. Could one of those perturbations be in a chakra? Yeah. We have meridians that flow through our body. Could one of those perturbations be stuck in a meridian and stopping the flow there? Yeah, it's all energy, right? Everything's energy. What about my shoulder? Could there be a perturbation stuck in my shoulder? Of course there could. That would be a trapped emotion in the body. You're going to find all the way through this course, we are going to talk about universal principles using different theories, using different energy systems, using different terminology to describe them, so that whatever it takes for you to understand it, whatever it takes for you to raise your energetic awareness, whatever it takes for you to explain it to your friend, because her brother just died in a car accident and she is beyond consolable. She has so much grief and grieving happening, she cannot even breathe. Does she need to understand why thought field therapy works? No. Can you sit down with her and love her and tap with her and relieve some of that and break and release a perturbation around the loss of her brother? You sure can. And then if you want to explain it to her, you can. But the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the tapping, right? The proof is in the release. The proof is in the healing. Dr. Callahan was able to cure his patients. They had complete healings as a result of him developing this entire system of thought field therapy. And he trained people, and some of those people went out and had another way to talk about tapping, and then those people had more ways, more students and more ways, and they brought in other companion methodologies with them. And now we have this beautiful orchestra of tapping available to us. Some of them are playing violins and some are playing French horns, and it's all playing beautifully together. The symphony of tapping is to help heal mankind. Raising the collective consciousness, raising the energetic awareness. My personal mission is raising the collective consciousness to peaceful coexistence. What a beautiful way to raise the consciousness, right? The collective consciousness through energy medicine, through understanding energy. So the more ways that you can understand this unimaginable thing called energy, or the quantum field, or divine intelligence, or universal intelligence, or the creative force, or the life force, or whatever, God, whatever you want to call it, right? The Tao, whatever you want to call it. The more you raise your energetic awareness, and the more the collective consciousness raises. It's a win-win for all of us. So this is my conversation about thought field therapy. I wanted you to understand the roots of tapping and from whence it came, because it is such a vibrant field of energy medicine now. And the fact that I actually understand and have had a really beautiful practice of thought field therapy for over 10 years, I wanted to bring that richness to you in this module. So this is Module 3. Video 2. In Module 3, Video 3, I am actually going to teach you how to do a thought field therapy treatment, which Dr. Callahan calls an algorithm. He has very carefully over the years, now he crossed over in 2014, and in all of those years from 1980 through 2014 was actively creating this entire library of healings and experiences and algorithms having to do with thought field therapy. So in the next video, we will learn how to do a tapping sequence using thought field therapy. I'll see you there.